Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see about the structuralist view of grammar and IC analysis. Among all the schools, the most influential structural school of linguistics is associated with the name Leonard Bloomfield. He is an American linguist and his thesis is that language has a structure. Bloomfieldian or post-Bloomfieldian linguistics, they studied language structure and associated that with the phoneme as the unit of phonology and morpheme as the unit of grammar. The sememic approach of language was developed by S.M. Lamb of the Copenhagen School. And another is the theory of K.L. Pike, who attempts to apply emic ideas of phonology, grammar, and vocabulary, but he also insists on applying the same to the analysis of other areas of human behavior. Now, the structuralism is an approach that analyzes and also describes the structure of language. It is a new approach to grammar suggested by linguists like Ferdinand de Saussure and American linguists like Frank Boyes, Edward Sapir, and Leonard Bloomfield. This school of linguistics arose as a reaction against the approach of the traditional grammarians of the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. The traditional grammarians looked upon Latin as their model and they prescribed rules for English on the basis of Latin. But structuralist linguists, on the other hand, began to study language in terms of observable and verifiable data and describe it after the behavior of the language as it was being used. As for the assumptions of the structural linguists, it may be said as the follows. Spoken language is primary and written language secondary. Objective treatment should be given to all languages. The synchronic study of language should take precedence over its diachronic study. Synchronic study approaches language in its state at a given time and describes as it exists, taking into account of all the levels of the language. Fourth is the language is a system of systems. That is, language has its own structure and each language is regarded by the structuralist as a system of relations, the elements of which sounds, words, etc. Structuralists describe the different categories such as noun, adjective, verb, etc. in terms of the characteristics, while meaning-based notions, definitions were given to these categories by the traditional grammarians. The structuralist grammar may describe two different states of the language. Example, the man bought a dog and the dog was bought by a man. There are two major steps, each applied at every level of analysis. The first of these is the setting up of the elements involved, that is phonemic, morphemic, and syntactic. The second is to state the distribution of these elements relative to each other. First, the phonological elements are set up, followed by a statement of their distribution. Then the morphological elements are set up, then the relations among them. Lastly, the syntax is analyzed into constituents and their relationship started in terms of the structures. The resulting statement contains relatively few elements and classes of elements. Thus, the structural linguistics is committed to the study of language in its own terms in order to arrive at an abstract, synchronic description of the organization of the language analyzed. Bloomfield's sentence, "Poor John ran away," may be described as a simple sentence made up of a noun, that is John, modified by the adjective poor, and whose predicate is a verb phrase consisting of the verb ran and modified by the adverb away. Underlying both the approaches to grammatical analysis is the view that sentences are not just linear sequences of elements but are made up of layers of immediate constituents, each lower level constituent being part of a higher level constituent. One can distinguish three periods of development in the theory of constituent structure. Bloomfield spoke of a proper analysis of the sentence into its constituents as one which takes account of the meanings. His followers, Wells and Harris, formulated the principle of constituent analysis in greater detail and replaced Bloomfield's method with explicitly distributable criteria. Finally, in the last few years, the theory of constituent structure has been formalized and subjected to mathematical study by Chomsky and other scholars who have given considerable attention to the nature of the rules to generate sentences. Constructions may be classified according to their distribution and that of their constituents into what are commonly called endocentric and exocentric constructions. An endocentric construction is one whose distribution is identical with that of one or more of its constituents. All the others are exocentric. For example, poor John is endocentric since it has the same distribution as its constituent John. Any English sentence in which John occurs can be matched with another sentence in which poor John occurs in the same position. Endocentric constructions fall into two main types, coordinating and subordinating. Coordinating constructions have the same distribution as each of the constituents taken separately. Thus, bread and cheese and coffee or tea are coordinating noun phrases. However, the two phrases belong to different subtypes, the first taking a plural verb and the second a singular verb. Subordinating constructions have the same distribution as one of the constituents. Example, adverbial plus noun, that is an adjective and a noun. Poor John. Poor is adjective and noun is John. Adverb plus verb, awfully clever. Noun or noun phrase plus adverb or adverbial phrase, the girl upstairs, the man on the bus. The constituent whose distribution is the same as that of the resultant construction is called the head, and the other constituent is the modifier. In subordinate constructions, one modifier may be recursorily nested with another. For example, in the man on top of the bus, there are two constituents, the man, which is the head, and on top of the bus, modifier. On the top of the bus is an exocentric adverbial phrase consisting of the preposition on and the noun phrase, the top of the bus. The top of the bus is endocentric, its constituents being top, which is the head, and of the bus, which is the modifier. The term ICA was introduced by the famous structural linguist Bloomfield in 1939. The aim of this analysis is to find out the ultimate constituents of a sentence and their relationship with one another. The systematic grouping of words in a sentence is called constituents. For example, he was eating. Now, the ICA is a method of cutting a sentence into its immediate constituents. The principle involved is that of cutting a sentence into two, then again cutting the two parts into another two, and continuous segmentation till the smallest unit, that is a morpheme, is arrived. Therefore, this type of analysis is also called binary analysis. This can be shown by taking a simple example of a sentence like, the alert driver saved the passengers. The method of segmentation can be shown in the following ways. It can be shown in a box diagram like this, or it can be shown in vertical lines like this, or it can be shown in brackets like this, or it can even be shown in a tree diagram like this. The tree diagram brings out the hierarchical nature of ICA very clearly. The sequence of elements is said to be an expansion of another if it can be substituted for it. Expansion is a substitution of one sequence of elements for another. For example, children, then we say Indian children, then 3 Indian children, and 3 Indian children with a dog. Here, children is head word, whereas the other words in second, third, and fourth are modifiers. Simple bracketing, box diagram, and T diagram do not show the nature and functions of the constituents. This inadequacy was removed by the notion of labeled analysis. In a labeled analysis, the items are shown by a tree diagram with all the branches labeled like this. And then we have the structure of phrases, which can be summed up in the following notation like this. And this gives the structure of the concerned phrase in a straight line. Now, about the limitations of ICA analysis, the ICA could be successfully used to analyze only simple sentences without complications and also to resolve ambiguities, that is a difference of meaning. Some sentences are structurally similar but semantically they are different. An oft quoted example is John is easy to flatter, and the second sentence is John is eager to flatter. Such sentences cannot be explained by ICA analysis unless they are broken up into simple pairs of sentences. In the case of the first sentence and the second, one would have to follow the groups. In first, it is easy. Someone flatters John. In second, John is eager. He wants to flatter someone else. And third, it is not possible to analyze such structures that do not form proper grammatical groups. For example, she is taller than her sister. In this instance, the sequence ER than is not covered by IC analysis. They are overlapping ICs, as in he has no knowledge of IC analysis, or he has no knowledge or interest in IC analysis. The word no should be assigned both to knowledge of IC analysis and interest in IC analysis. There is no way of showing this fact in IC analysis. In IC analysis, there is no way of indicating understood elements. In wait till I come, you is understood, but there is no way of showing this in IC analysis. IC analysis fails to show the relationship between sentence types such as actives and passives, affirmatives and negatives, statements and questions. For example, the following sentences are semantically similar but they have different structures. The cat killed the mouse. The mouse was killed by the cat. In IC analysis, it is tactically assumed that there will be no division into pieces smaller than words, that is morphemes, until all the words have been divided up. that is conditional. IC analysis does not tell us how to produce new sentences that have not already been found. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box, like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.